We're helping both sides. We're not trying just to, push people from one way or the other. We're on the hiring side, someone looking to bring on a partner, or we're helping people find that,
Hmm.
partnership that they're seeking to join.
Welcome to That's Derm Good. I'm Janelle Ball, and I'm excited to bring you thought-provoking conversations about biologics, specialty medications, treatments, and so much more. I'll be chatting with some amazing guests about access, affordability, and advocacy. You're really going to enjoy this show. Welcome to That's Derm Good. Today, my guest is Brent Bargen. Brent is the Vice President of Business Development at My Derm Recruiter. Welcome, Brent. Thanks for joining me.
Hi, Janelle. Thanks for having me on. Looking forward to speaking with you today.
Yes. Did I meet you at a conference before?
Yep, I've met you at a couple conferences before. I
Yeah.
think Winter Clinical, maybe with Derm Squared, we met at
Yeah.
before.
I've seen you guys around a few times. I feel like we might have even had a conversation. It's really cool what you guys are doing with helping residents and dermatologists, get plugged in and find out, where jobs are available and how to get plugged in. I'd love to hear a little bit more about that itself, but I also want to know how you got into dermatology and why a derm recruiter is so valuable. And it's such a growing space. I mean,
It
we were
is.
just talking about that, how dermatology is so vast. There's so many different pieces to the puzzle and resources available, but how do you hone into just this niche of being able to recruit people in the derm space, and what all does that entail?
Great question. So let me kind of take you back to the beginning of where we started. So we were founded in 2014. So we've been in business a little over 11 years now. Our CEO and founder is Michelle Sullentrep. So she's worked in recruiting for about 20 years, and she's recruited all different specialties before. So she really loved the derm space and decided to branch off about 11 years ago and just start working in derm and kind of find that little niche. And
Mm-hmm.
the plan was, maybe we grow it, maybe we don't, but we've been so busy in derm ever since then that we've really kind of found, our sweet spot here. And we love what we do. So we do all derm all day, every day. Where I came into play at, so I started with the company about 5 years ago. I came on as the director of operations for us, and now I've kind of grown and transitioned into our vice president of business development. So, kind of where I come from, I've got a finance background.
Mm-hmm.
I've worked in the banking industry, I've worked in retail before. So, I've kind of done all kinds of business related things. And when I met Michelle a couple years ago, she's like, I'm really looking to, grow the company. I'd love for you to kind of come on and oversee the sales team with us. And I'm like, what do you do exactly? Like, I don't know anything about dermatology. She's like, that's okay. That's okay. We need to run it from the business side of things. Little did I know all kinds of things about dermatology now that I never thought I would know, 5 years ago and this time. And I love it. Honestly, I learned something new every day. I think dermatology is a wildly fascinating space. There's something different and changes happening, every day, every week in the
Mm-hmm.
industry. So it keeps us busy. We've grown into be the number one dermatology recruitment firm in the nation. There are tons of different recruitment firms out there. I'll be the first one to tell you that. I mean, you get on Google, you'll see a ton of them.
Mm-hmm.
We really specialize ourselves, like I said, is just finding the niche in dermatology. So we really provide a personalized feel to the recruitment experience with people. Sometimes recruitment, I'll be the first to say too, that it gets a bad rap out there. Not all recruiters have a good reputation behind them, but we try to be really personable
Mm-hmm.
with everyone that we work with and really make it a good experience for them, because finding a job can be daunting, whether you're looking to get a job or you're trying to hire somebody. Hiring is difficult out there. It's competitive out
Mm-hmm.
there. So we've grown the business. We've got over 1,000 jobs nationwide that we represent right now. That is just with physicians and MPs and PAs. But we've really grown, I guess, the last 18 months or so. Now we've got what's called a job support board as well. So we hire biologics coordinators, MAs, histotechs, anything support related. We've got a job board that our clients can post directly for that on too. So we found that that's helped them tremendously over the last couple months as well. Just being able to get their opportunity out there. Our job board is the largest job board in the nation
Wow.
for dermatology specific recruitment. So we're really proud of that. It's like I said, we've worked hard on building that up. So we've got opportunities in all 50 states. So wherever you're looking, we can help you find a job out there. Whether you're on the recruitment side, you need to find a job. Our services are 100% free
Mm-hmm.
to work with us. So that's honestly the easiest thing that I can tell people looking for a job. Like, hey, it's not going to come out of your sign-on bonus. You don't owe me anything if we find you a job. We are truly in this to help you. Do we do it out of the goodness of our hearts for free? Sometimes, yes, right? But no. So we're paid on the client side. So we are what's called a contingency recruitment firm. So it's great for clients as well who are looking to hire. You only owe us a fee if we successfully hire someone for you. So we always tell people stop paying for retainers and pay for success out there. We are willing to bet on our success for you. If we never hire anyone for you, you truly never owe us a dime. So it's a win-win situation. So like I said, most times it sounds crazy, but clients are happy to pay us because that means they found someone, it's going to fill a need for them out there, and they're going to be making revenue for them. So it's really more of, I try to tell clients to look at it as an investment for the business as well out there. So that's kind of what we do on a large scale
Yeah.
there.
What do you think the most common thing is that your successful offices have across the country?
I love that question. So I think it's changed even in the 5 years that I've been doing this. I would say when I started, cash was king. You could throw out money and people were coming to your offices because there was just such a demand everywhere. Well, that's really shifted to now. I think culture is
Mhm.
king. If you don't have a good culture at your practice, you are not going to be set up for long term success and sustainability at your practice. So I think it really starts with having that good office environment. I
Mhm.
think a lot of people, whenever they come in and they're interviewing, they're going to ask around, hey, what's the turnover rate? Why are you hiring? Is it because people keep on leaving here? Well, people keep on leaving, that's a red flag for people.
Yeah.
Right. So if you're able to show as a practice that, hey, we've got a great culture here, we've got hardly little turnover, we take care of our employees from the bottom all the way to the top. Everyone's treated equal here. I think that is really a green flag for practices to be able to, showcase themselves out there.
Yeah. I think that's something that is so hard sometimes to find, just you help offices establish a culture and figure out, okay, what do we need to do to be able to make sure this is a good working environment for anybody that you've hired? Because I'm sure you've probably seen that before where a client says, okay, we need to hire another person. And you place people multiple times there and you're like, okay, something's
Right.
not
Something's
right.
not.
What is happening?
Yeah, no, that's a great question. So a lot of times recruitment firms, I'll just be the first to say it, they place somebody and then you never hear from them again. They're not following up with you. Where I think we've really built success and a good reputation in the industry is that we follow up with the practices. We want to make sure that our hires are working out well for you. There's
Mhm.
nothing worse than me sending someone to you and then you call me back in 3 months. And you're like, hey, this person is not working out. They were not vetted properly by you guys. They're a bad fit here. So we really want to be on the ground floor with the practices to make sure that we're setting up this culture with them.
Mhm.
So yes, we do get in there. We get very involved with the practices to make sure that everything is set up. So I think the biggest thing is making sure you've got a good onboarding plan. Whenever you hire anybody new, whether it's an MA, a histotech, NPPA, or you bring on a physician, I always emphasize having kind of a 30, 60, 90-day plan. Make sure you have written goals for these mile markers. If you're not tracking yourself against this, you're not going to be successful because I'll tell you what, 90 days goes fast. A lot of times you're like, oh my gosh, someone's been here for 3 months already, and I don't know, what are they doing?
Mhm.
Of course, we don't have them fully ramped up. Like I thought they'd be seeing a full patient schedule by now. Well, did you set yourself up from day one to have them busy on day 90? So we'll help them with goals. We'll help them establish that. We'll make sure, that they've got the best EMR system that fits their practice, the best in different things like that. We'll help with anything and everything that we can help with to make sure that you're set up for long term success, not just getting through the first, 3 to 6 months either.
Right. So you mostly work with physicians.
Yep.
Um, do you help physicians set up their practice, or do you mostly find maybe new physicians that just came out of residency that are looking to find a practice or maybe even start their own? What is
Great question. Love that. So we work with a little bit of everybody out there. I would say we work with probably 50% residents and 50% board certified physicians out there on the physician side. So if let's start with residents first. I love that. That is my biggest passion here is helping residents find their first job because they've worked so long. They've been in
Mhm.
school for so long, just grinding, trying to find that first job. Well, what happens is no one teaches them how to find a job out of
Mm.
residency a lot of times. So that's where we come in, and education is key. We're not trying to push people into private practice, private equity, hospital systems. We represent everybody out there. So we want to get to know the resident and figure out, okay, how do you like to practice dermatology? Do you like the general derm side of things? Do you like the cosmetics? Do you want to go and do a Mohs fellowship after, you're completed with your residency? All the things like that. We get to know you early on, even your first, second year of residency. And then when it's time to start looking, we'll help you find a spot. So that's why we want to know, okay, where do you have family at? Do you want to go be back closer to family? If
Mm.
you're living in, some of the northern states and it's freezing cold right now this time of the year, do you want to go down to Florida and, live and practice here? So we'll help you get to know all of that. So once we kind of identify the factors that we think are important to you, we go out and find jobs that match to them. Then, and again, sometimes the first couple we send them are great. Sometimes like, oh, you know what? Not exactly what I'm looking for. That's great. We appreciate any and all feedback. Every recruitment cycle is different. People ask all the time, well, how long will it take me to find a job? It varies, depends on where you're looking, what your goals are, and what your priorities are. So it just depends. There's no right or wrong answer for that. It never hurts being early. That's what I'll always say.
Mhm.
Looking there. So that's the resident side of things. So once we get them established there, now let's say that same resident comes back 3 years later. They're board certified. Hey, I've worked for this big group for 3 years. Really loved it. I've learned a lot. Can you help us, or can you help me start my own practice somewhere? Absolutely. So we can help with that. We'll help you figure out, what locations are good for you, what are saturated markets out there. You don't want to go and put your derm office up to someone that's got, kind of a monopoly on the market there for you. So we'll help you figure out what locations are good, what locations might not be. That's good for you. We'll help you out. We've got consultants on our team that can help you figure out, how to hire every level of staffing for your office. Like I said, what EMR systems are good? What benefits and policies do you need to put in place for your staff? So we help with all of that because, like I said, especially if you want to start your own practice, you want to make sure you've got the foundation set for you. So that's really important too. Another one that happens a lot is physicians will come to us. Maybe they want a partnership track somewhere. So we'll help them find offices that are hiring for a partnership track.
Mhm.
A big misconception out there a lot of times with people that are looking for partnership is that it is not an immediate thing. Just because you sign a contract with somebody does not necessarily mean they're going to be giving you partnership from day one. So we always tell them, hey, it's kind of like a dating period. That first year,
Yeah.
you're kind of feeling them out, they're feeling you out. What works best for you? If after that first year, like, you know what, we can see this going in long term, we'll help figure out, okay, what does that buy in look like for you guys? What kind of equity stake do you have here? So we can help with all of that as well. So we want to be, a one-stop shop, a resource for anything and everything in Durham. But there's so many possibilities when it comes to finding a job out there. It's exciting.
Yeah.
There's something for everybody out there.
Yeah, I like how you kind of get to know the person
Yeah,
first, and it is kind of like, like these dating apps. I mean, that's you kind of have to get to know them first to see what they like and help to place them into something that actually, hopefully can be long term, but that
yep,
they feel comfortable in and they can thrive in. I think that's so important. But I like how you talked about the partnership. That's a really interesting point too, how most of the time you think, okay, I'm going to get into a partnership, and how does that even work? Like, I don't think anybody's ever really broken that down. Do
right.
you, how do you even know if that's a good fit? Because then when you're placing somebody and it's a disaster, then, you
Exactly. So,
know,
so that's why we do so much work on the front end with you.
hmm
And after that first conversation, we're like, oh my gosh, I was talking to them forever. It's like, why? Well, it's like we've got to lay that foundation with you to figure out what motivates you, what's important to you,
hmm
what kind of intrinsic values, are you seeking in a partnership or in a, if you're starting your own practice. So we want to know all of that because like I said, there's nothing worse than you don't want to financially strap yourself for years to come. If you get into a bad situation, or if you buy in somewhere that you're not even personally bought into, you don't want to get stuck or trapped there. We've
right.
had a lot of conversations with people who have to get out of something because they rushed into it, they thought it looked good on the front end. Let us help you look at everything behind the scenes for you
hmm
there and make sure that it's a good deal for you.
Yeah.
Like I said, we're helping both sides there too. So like we're not trying just to, push people from one way or the other. We're on the hiring side, someone looking to bring on a partner, or we're helping people find that,
hmm
partnership that they're seeking to join as well. But like I said, the biggest advice I would give is just take your time, do your homework, and do not rush into anything that you are not 100% sold on. Because if you are, you're going to have regrets, and then you're going to kind of be stuck where you're at.
Yeah. Yeah. Is there like a questionnaire that you fill out, or
Yep.
how do you even get started
Yeah,
with it?
so we've got an internal kind of questionnaire that we'll step through with you.
Mhm.
It's long. We're going to ask you, 20 to 25 questions just to start. And from there, we're going to break it down for you based off of your answers. And we're not going to guide you or try to tell you to answer one way or the other. We want you to be honest. From that point, we kind of review that questionnaire for you, and then we're going to bring you opportunities that we have at the right. Okay, I think you're a match for these three jobs based off of these 10 things you
Mhm.
might have said. Now, if we introduce you to that practice and you're like, you know what? Actually, I realize this is important to me. Perfect. The more transparent feedback we get, the
Yeah.
better. Communication is the key to every successful recruitment cycle
Yeah.
for us. As long as we've got open lines of communication, we will find somewhere that makes you happy there. And if we're
Mhm.
not able to find you something, we'll tell you why. We're not going to hide and be like, oh, you know what? It's not going to work out. Good luck down the road. There's always a reason of why it does or does not work. So that's why we want to ask all those questions. And like I said, on the front end, it probably does seem a little cumbersome or time
Mhm.
consuming for you. But on the back end, that's we've helped people multiple times get multiple jobs, whether they're, maybe they finished residency in Florida, they want to, get their first job in Florida, but they know long term they're moving back to Texas. So we've helped them find that first job in Florida, and then we're helping them go to Texas. They come back to us because they trust us in
Mhm.
the process because we took the
Yeah.
time to get to know them and figure out kind of what works for them. So
Yeah.
yeah, that
That's good
recruitment
because
is good.
when you talk about, finding a job, I guarantee there's probably so many questions that you don't even think about. So that
Yep,
questionnaire probably is really helpful to kind of spark some of those thoughts and ideas as far as like what exactly do you want. I think that it's so important to find a place that you want to be part of and grow with.
exactly.
I did temp service a couple of times. Like when I first moved from Ohio to Indiana, I worked with the temp service. I think it was one place that I started in. It was great fit. I ended up getting hired there and it was great, but they ended up closing down and then went back with the same company. Went to another ortho office and that one was okay. But after a couple of years, that place, I realized how toxic it was.
Yeah.
That was when I first started getting migraines. I never had migraines until I worked at that one. Then back to the same recruitment company and got placed in my first derm office. And, I remember I worked in derm before, like before I left to go to Indiana. So when I got back in derm, I was like, this is where I need to be. And that office, I'm telling you, I still have the friend group from that
Right.
office. And,
You
it's
knew
like,
it was a good one. Yeah.
yeah,
Yeah.
long-term relationships
Yep.
and friendships that just last. And, it's got its ups and downs sometimes, but any job does. But, when you've got real good friends from an office that, it makes us so much of a difference.
It makes a world of a difference. It's so important to be somewhere where you enjoy. Like I
Mhm.
said, money's not the end all be all. You can make good money in Durham no matter where you're at. Everyone knows that if they work hard, it's out there. But what's important beyond, the money there? Are you happy with your lifestyle outside of the Durham office?
Right.
All of that is so important. There's so many times that, we're working with people trying to find the right job, and they're so worried about whenever they go to interview, what questions are they going to ask them? Like, well, what should I be
Mhm.
prepared? We actually kind of flip that on them, and we give them 10 questions that they should be asking the derm office as well, because you're just as much interviewing them as they
Mhm.
are interviewing you. So if you go into that interview and you're just taking it all in and listening and you don't ask any questions, to me, that can kind of set you up for failure sometimes because you're kind of getting driven by, the narrative that they want to push on you. So we try to encourage people to have their own set of questions ready to ask and make sure that they're transparent with things
Yeah.
because if not, like I said, you don't want to show up on day one and be like, ooh, I wish I would have asked, X, Y, and Z about the office. Like I didn't know. They only, showed this side of the office to me. I didn't see the right side there.
Right.
And so yeah,
Yeah.
that's important. Very.
So when a dermatologist is evaluating an office, what's the very first thing that they should be paying attention to?
That's a great question. So I think support staff is the first thing that they should be paying attention to. If they're
Mhm.
not willing to invest in a good support staff for you, it's going to be impossible to do your job. So many times a physician will tell me, hey, I'm a high volume person. I can see 40 to 50 patients a day easily. Like, okay, that's great. But is the practice going to support you on that? Do you have the proper, MA set up for you? Are they scribing for you?
Mhm.
What kind of EMR system do they have? Are they integrating AI to kind of help things? AI is a crazy thing, in our world now. But if you're not adapting and embracing it, you're going to get left behind, especially if you've got high goals that you want to set. You've got to
Mhm.
make sure that that foundation is there for you as well. So I would say the first thing to look for is make sure that you've got great support all around you. How is the billing and the collections, in the front office? Are they getting that to you in a timely manner, or does it seem like collections are always lagging from you? Like, oh, we only collect this percent. Should that be higher? Make sure kind of what the industry standard and norms are, because you could do the best job, you could be the best doctor out there, and bill all this, but if the front office isn't collecting for you, or if you've got bad reimbursements or bad insurance providers,
Mhm.
what's it really matter? All your work is for
Right.
nothing out there. So don't worry about, what can I make on the, like so many people they're so worried about just that front dollar guarantee that they can make, and they don't worry about how they actually get to that number there. So make sure you really understand. I always call it the Lego pieces. Make sure you understand the
Mhm.
building blocks of how you actually get to the top. If you've got a wobbly base, or like Jenga, if you got a wobbly base, it's all going to fall over for you.
Yeah, absolutely. That makes so much sense. I mean, having a good team is huge. I mean,
Everything.
it does go back to culture as well,
Yep.
but when and that's one of the things that I always talk about too is when your office, I think a lot of times people get into this, oh, this is my job and that's not my job. And when everybody's working well, especially in a medical office, everybody kind of intertwines and you've got to be able to
Yep.
work together. And I think one of the things that I also have seen before is where the staff is afraid to talk to the doctor. And when it comes to patient access, you gotta have that
Right.
conversation, and if it's like, "No, don't go talk to the doctor, don't say anything." Like, why? Like,
Right.
that's terrible for the office.
It is. Yeah. It sets you up on a bad path. The patient access is huge. We emphasize that all the time out there. And it's like, also, what are people doing outside of the office too? Even like, do you have
Mhm,
good camaraderie? Like, are you giving back in the community at all? Do you do any community giving days, or do you go out to lunch outside of the office? Like, that's important too, to kind of establish that rapport. Like, obviously, there's the importance of separation of a work life balance
mhm,
too, but also just making sure that you kind of establish your identity in the community that you're in as well is critical, because that's going to lead to more patients that come in to see you. It's going to build your brand, your reputation out there. So we always, kind of emphasize that as well. As like, okay, they're really good inside of these four
mhm.
walls that they're in here, but what do they do outside of that? Do they
Right.
care about their community reputation, or is it just end all be all? We want to see as many patients as we can to, get the end all dollar there.
Mhm.
Like there's so much more to it. So I think it's important to make sure you're looking at those kind of things as well
Yeah,
out there.
that's huge. So, how do you think of the practice's patient population influences a dermatologist's satisfaction and success?
That is a great question. I love that question. So one, I think from the dermatologist side, you have to know what kind of patient population you want to be seeing. If you're going to be out in the desert in Arizona, you got to understand, you're probably more of a retirement community out there. Whereas if you're in, a big metropolis city, like Denver, Chicago, Miami, you're probably seeing, more of the cosmetic side of things sometimes too. So you need to understand what you want to see and what kind of patient base is being drawn to
Mhm,
you. Because if you tell me that you're heavy cosmetics, well, probably going to a retirement community in Florida is not going to be the best spot to go. So you're not going to have that satisfaction, of what you're doing. But if you're a good physician, it's how do you brand yourself in the community as
mhm,
well. And we see this so many times that a practice will hire somebody. Maybe they haven't done certain procedures in the past, but they're willing to add them on. Well, how are you going to market that to the community? You could have a whole subset of patients out there that you've never even touched, but you didn't know that would be willing to come to you just because maybe you invested in a new laser for your practice. So always ask those questions too. If you're a physician, are you willing to invest in me? I know how
mhm.
to do these devices. If we get these devices, I think we can bring in this kind of patient population here. That's really important too. if you're not going to get that, or if you're not going to get that investment from the practice, you're probably not going to be as satisfied too. But I think really understanding the market you're in is crucial. You can't bring certain people to different markets if, that's not what the demand is there. So it's
Mhm.
really important, I think, understand what you're working with out there. So good question.
Yeah, absolutely. What about leadership style? Like what should candidates look for with, and practice owners or managers as well?
Love that. I think the biggest thing that I would recommend looking in leadership style is transparency.
Mhm.
If they're willing to share everything with you about the business, they have nothing to hide. If something seems off, it probably is off a little bit. But the biggest thing we emphasize, and if I can tell you if it's a good practice or not, often right out of the gate, whenever we're negotiating offers with people, if they're not willing to show them, kind of what the books look like, hey, if you see 30 patients a day, you're going to be making X amount. If you see 40, you can get to this. The best practices show what the other providers are doing in the
Mhm.
practice. It's a pretty open book out there. So the best leaders are able to convey that. There's nothing hidden. We don't have to hide. There's no gimmicks. If you got to rely on gimmicks to get people in, you're probably not going to be set up. It might work in the short run for you, but long term sustainability, it's just not there. So I think being transparent and just being, it sounds so simple, just being a good person goes a long way. People want to work for somebody that they can trust
Mhm.
out there. It's okay to be their friend and be their boss at the same time.
Right.
Sometimes you got to do both. Sometimes there's two different things you have to do there. But find people that you want to work with, find people that care about your personal interests as well. And you're not just another, clog on the wheel for them
Mhm.
that's there to make a buck for them. Find somebody that really is passionate about you, wants to invest in you and your success. Someone that's not afraid to show you, hey, this is where you're going to start out right now. This is where I can get you. If you follow our leadership style here, there's a path to success. Here, a
Mhm.
lot of times, where you start is not where you want to finish at sometimes. So, but are you marching up the ladder? Or are you marching down the ladder? And like I said, that starts from the top. It starts with leadership. So it's important to make sure you find somebody that is willing to invest in your success out there.
Yeah. That's so good. I feel like there's so many little pieces of the puzzle that you wanna look at and, the area that you're in or what your demographic is gonna look like and looking at the office as a whole
Yep.
before you just start, "Hey, yeah, well, this job is hiring, so let's take it," but putting a little bit of thought into where you wanna be and looking ahead kind of long term is so important.
It is. It is. And I'll tell you another big thing that I talk to practices all the time about is websites too. If
Mhm.
you're not investing in your website, you lose so many candidates before they even get to you, because if they look at your website and it looks a little clunky and outdated, they probably know that you're not investing on the inside of your office either. So make
Mhm.
sure you're taking the time. You've got a very user friendly website. You're investing in SEO. You're pumping, your practice's website up to the top of, Google and all the search engines out there. If you're not doing that, you're losing candidates
Mhm.
out there. I see it every day out there. You could have a great practice internally, but sometimes you're not even going to get the best candidates to you because they look at your website and they're immediately turned off and it's a no from them. So making sure that that's a spot where you start at, it's going to open up so many more doors for you. It sounds
Yeah.
simple, but sometimes people just forget about that part of it because like, oh, well, we're busy. We've always had the patients. Well, if you're not thinking about 2 to 3 years down the road and the next new patient coming in, you're going to get left behind
Mhm.
out there. So
Yeah.
making sure you're constantly setting yourself up for future success is key.
Yeah. That's true, and looking at the reviews because
Yeah,
that's usually the
Google
first
reviews are
thing you're looking
huge.
at.
Yes, yes, yeah. If you get on there someone's page and they've got a bunch of 1 and 2 star reviews, you're probably
Mhm.
not going to go there. Where there's smoke, typically there's fire, right?
Right, exactly.
So yeah,
So
and
how does
definitely
somebody turn it around from that?
good question. So maybe you had a bad culture 3 years ago. You got a couple bad
Mhm.
providers in there. They're not there, but those reviews are just sitting out there. How do you get past that? One, you got to get the right people in place too, but also offering incentives for people to fill out Google reviews is very effective out there. We've seen it all the time. If someone comes in, they have a good experience, ask them, hey, if you don't mind, would you take 5 minutes to fill out a Google review for us if you enjoyed your experience? Send out patient satisfaction surveys. Sometimes tie in, you know, a $10 gift card to it. People will do a lot of things for a $10 gift card out
Mhm.
there. But if you can constantly, slowly get those reviews to start building back up out there, you're going to slowly start building that culture. Because what we tell people is look at the recent reviews out there too. If there's something from 5 years ago, okay, maybe there's an answer to that. But how do things look the last 3, 6, 12 months out
Mhm.
there online? Because that's how the practice is probably being operated right now. If you don't have many reviews out there, you need to go out and start getting them out there because people do, especially the physicians and the NPs and PAs that we work with. It's the first thing they're going to look at
Yeah.
out there. So if you've got a good practice going, make sure you don't forget about that out there. You know, incentivize people to go and give
Mhm.
you a good review out there. We
Yeah.
ask for it all the time ourselves too. It's important.
Right. Do you ever advise any business owners as far as like helping them to identify maybe some of the issues that they're seeing in their office within like maybe their culture? Maybe they've got, a toxic manager or they've
Yep.
a toxic employee, and how do you manage that so that it doesn't ruin the whole entire culture of the office? Because that's, one person where they're best friends with the doctor,
Right.
and it's hard for them to see, but you've got, so many people leaving the office because of that one person that doesn't get along, and they think, "Oh, you know what? I'm not getting fired. There's nothing going to happen to me." How do you approach a situation like that?
I've seen that so many times where people feel like they're just kind of stuck with
Mhm.
somebody out there. The easy thing is to do nothing out there and just keep on with the status quo. But that's not going to get your business to the next level. So we kind of consult, and, you know, we'll come and look at the practice from a very unbiased thing. We'll kind of poke holes and okay, this looks good. This, you know, you can improve here. Efficiencies aren't too great here. We'll help look at all that
Mhm.
for you. And we'll have that hard conversation with you of, hey, maybe your office manager is not the best person that's in place right now. 15 years ago, they might have been fantastic for you, but
Mhm.
maybe there's someone better out there. And those can be tough conversations because if they've been there for a while, they can be a friend to you. Maybe they're better suited in a different role. I'm not saying you totally even have to get rid of them either. You know,
Mhm.
but maybe their skill set is better used somewhere else in the office. So many times people are just afraid to make the move out there.
Yeah.
So we always encourage you to get uncomfortable out there a little bit. It's not easy, but the
Mhm.
success will pay off for you, and you have to invest in yourself as well. You know, if you're paying on the bottom rate, you're going to get a bottom tier candidate out there. If you want someone that's going to, you know, really drive success and, you know, patient growth for you, make sure you're finding the person that knows how to go out in the community and do that for you.
Mhm.
But you have to be willing to invest as well. So again, a lot of times you're like, well, I'm used to paying this. Okay, well, we can do a market analysis for you, and I can tell you that this is the going rate for a practice manager in this area that's driving this X amount of revenue for you. Are you willing to pay that? Sometimes like, oh yeah, you know, I would pay that. But again, if you're not, you're going to get stuck and you're going to get passed up a lot of
Right.
times. So it starts there. It's hard to ask yourself those questions sometimes, but you have to have an honest look in the mirror sometimes saying, are we putting our best foot forward? Do we have the people in the best position that can make the best decisions for our practice here? And if the
Yeah.
answer is no, you need to make some changes then,
Yeah.
probably.
I love that. I've always thought that that is such an important piece. Yes, they may say that they're qualified on paper, but is that the best position for that person?
Yep.
We want you to succeed. So we want you to be able to excel in your role and
Right.
not be doing a role just because it's a job.
Exactly. Yeah, no, that's your job as a manager, as the CEO, as a physician owner, to have those tough conversations and
Hmm.
put people on the right spot on the bus all the
Yeah.
time. You know, we do that same thing for our company. We're constantly moving around to make sure that people are in the right spot for success, not only for them but for the company as well. You know, sometimes you might not even realize as a company owner that somebody might be miserable in the job they're doing, but they're like, oh well, I'm used to doing this. I've done it, you know, for 5, 10 years now, and it's easy. You know, change is difficult out there a
Hmm.
lot of times. No one likes change. I'm the first one to tell you that. Yeah, it's hard out there, but
Yeah.
sometimes you have to force yourself into change. And 6 months after, you're like, you know what? That was the best thing I ever could have done for myself,
Right.
for the practice, for that employee. You're benefiting everybody at that point then.
Yeah, absolutely. So Looking ahead, what trends do you see shaping dermatology recruitment over the next few years?
Great question. So I think the elephant in the room, a lot of times that people ask us a lot of times, is private equity. Where is
Mhm.
private equity going? I'll be the first to say it's not going anywhere out there. Are there great small run private practices still? Yes. I think don't be afraid of private equity out there. There's uses for it for some providers and there's not
Mhm.
sometimes. So it just depends on what you're personally looking for out there. So I think establish your baseline first out there, because the biggest thing I can tell you where I think dermatology is going, the demand is skyrocketing out there still. So it's a great field to get involved in. I mean, that's why we're so passionate. That's why we only do dermatology, because we believe in it. We believe in the long term sustainability for it. I will tell you, practices are hiring more now than they've ever been. So the
Mhm.
demand is at an all time high out there.
Why
But
is that?
on the flip side, it's
Yeah.
because any practice you call, there's a long wait list out there. And I
Yeah.
think just as a whole, as society, people are willing to invest in themselves too. Now, a lot of times,
Mhm.
older generations, they might not go to the dermatologist until they've got something, but now it's preventative out there too. There's so many things you can
Yeah.
do on the front end of things. If start to establish yourself with a dermatologist when you're young out there, make sure you're staying ahead of it and it's not too late and you're going in for, cancer removals, when you're older. So I think people are starting to see dermatologists at a younger age now and stay established, which is a fantastic thing. So we are the biggest proponents for that out
Mhm.
there. But with that said, there's so much more demand
Yeah.
out there now too. So making sure you're able to meet that demand is critical. Like I said, the hiring has never been busier out there, especially in our space in the recruitment world of what we're doing. We've never had more active jobs than what we've had.
Mm.
But you've got to make sure you're finding the right candidate as well. So if you're on the candidate,
Yeah.
if you're looking, how do you separate yourselves? Go to different conferences, make sure you're getting the CME that you can put on your CV and resume. Make sure that you're investing in yourself as well. So that way you can show the practice that, hey, you're in this. I talk to so many people a lot of times like, oh, I've got a passion for dermatology. It's like, okay, great. Tell me a little bit about why.
Mhm.
Well, I heard there's great hours and there's not a lot of call, on the weekends. Like, okay, you know, everyone wants that, right? So, what are you doing to actually make yourself stand out
Right.
there? Like I said, we love the space. We think it's very rewarding, and it will continue to be that. But making sure you're able to differentiate yourselves from everybody else out there, because it is
Yeah.
competitive, and I do think dermatology will continue to be a very competitive landscape out there. I'm the first to say this. I don't think they let enough people into dermatology residencies out there based off the
Mm.
demand out there. We do not have enough residents graduating every year to fill the demand
Yeah.
out there. So
I
that's been
was
a big push, personal push of
Yeah.
my own that I've been, kind of preaching out there for a while.
I've been hearing that for a while too, and that's what I was my next question was gonna be is, are you seeing a lot more dermatology residents coming in? Because, a lot of these wait times are still
Yep.
3, 4 months out where people cannot get a dermatologist appointment.
Yep.
So, it's
No,
like,
yeah, the answer is no. Dermatology residencies are historically one of the hardest residencies
hmm,
to get in. A lot of people want to get into the space and they're not accepted into it just because there's not a lot that are allowed into it. So it's been
mm,
a big push of ours, just getting the word out there and doing what we can with programs to help. Hey, can you add maybe one or two more this year? If they
mhm,
all did that, we could have a lot bigger pool out there, because
yeah,
there's plenty of qualified people that want to get in to dermatology and help in this space,
mhm,
but there's not enough spots available out
yeah.
there for them.
Do you
So
guys
the
help
supply and
with
demand is off.
Yeah. Do you guys help with, resume building?
Yeah, oh yeah, we're huge on that. We've reviewed so many resumes over the years.
Mhm,
We'll help from any level, whether you're an MA, NP, PA, physician. We've reviewed so many resumes, so many CVs. Call us. I'll tell you what people are looking for out
mhm,
there. I think it's our job to make your resume and CV come to life out there. And I'm the first, especially when I'm talking to residents out there. A lot of them have great publications that they've done, but how do you make yourself stand out? Because everyone's at the top of their class,
yeah,
right? So let us help you make your CV come to life. That is a
mhm.
huge thing that we
Okay,
do.
what's the difference between the CV and a resume?
Nothing, honestly. It depends what you call it. Physicians will
Yeah,
call it a CV
okay.
more times. MPs and PAs will call it a CV too, whereas I call mine my resume still in the
Mhm,
business world. It's just two different
Okay. I was
interchangeable
wondering. I was
words.
like,
Yeah,
I know people use both of
yeah,
them, but
yep.
it's like, all right, what
Very
is
excited.
there more
Yeah.
professional one
No,
or
you're
what?
not. You're not wrong either way. That's why I kind of say both interchangeably
Yeah.
when I
Okay.
speak. So I'm glad you stopped and said that. Most people don't are afraid to ask. What's the difference?
Right.
Yeah, yeah. Good question.
Yeah. Well, that's exciting. So my last question, if someone is interested in working in medicine but doesn't want to be patient facing, would you recommend working in hiring and recruitment?
Yes, I would always recommend hiring in recruitment. It's fun if you don't want to be patient facing. Like I said, we don't see any patients, and I know everything there is to know about dermatology out there. Not everything. I'm still learning something all the
Mhm.
time out there, but there's so many different avenues that you can get into as well. Even if you don't want to be patient facing, even if it's inside that practice as well. There's a lot of great internal recruitment teams and practices as well. So there is never a shortage of people who need people to go out and find top talent for them. I will definitely be the first to say that. So yeah, if seeing patients isn't your thing, but you still kind of love the space, there are tons of different opportunities for you out there. So
Mhm.
don't be shy. Ask questions. Maybe you don't know that you're better off on one side or the other, but
Yeah.
always ask. Put yourself out there is what I always recommend.
Yeah. I mean, I look at it as what you guys are doing is a lot of workflow efficiency,
Yeah,
really helping to guide that and build that culture within these offices because it's so important, because
it
it
is.
reflects back, who you have in your office staff reflects back to your patients, and your patients view that as, okay, I want to go there because I enjoy not only the doctor, but I enjoy their staff, their front
Right.
desk, and
Yep.
everyone in that place. So yeah, that it makes a huge impact.
It does. Like I said, it starts from the very beginning. There, a lot of people have a huge hand in the process there. So find
Mhm.
out what area that you're passionate about and get involved in it.
Yeah. Well, thank you so much, Brent. It's been such a pleasure chatting with you and learning so much about the evolving landscape
Yes,
and
ever
in the
evolving.
dermatology space. Yes, it's ever evolving. So I
Yeah, no,
appreciate your
it's
time.
fun, it's exciting, and we so much appreciate the opportunity to jump on here with you, Janelle. You've been an awesome
Yeah.
podcast, so thank you so much.
Yeah. Thank you. And I'm sure we'll be seeing each other pretty soon.
Yes, we'll be crossing paths out there. We'll see you out there.
All right. Take
Thanks so
care.
much.
Thanks.
Take care.
Thanks for spending a few minutes with me and listening to That's Derm Good. You can expect new episodes of That's Derm Good every week. The podcast is available on your favorite app, including where you're listening right now. Subscribe to the podcast so you never miss a new episode. Bye.